Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We want to welcome you all to our first qiyam. Tonight's qiyam is not only going to be filled with down here. Okay. Tonight's qiyam is not only going to be filled with amazing and empowering speakers, but is also a time for prayer and reflection. We have for you all tonight some of the most influential speakers and activists from across Southern California and the country. This event is organized by the American Muslims for Palestine San Diego chapter through advocacy such as pressuring local officials or lobbying on Capitol Hill, through AJP, education such as this event or other events led by experts, community organizing, and collaboration with other dedicated organizations in San Diego. We aim to contribute to the larger goal of reshaping the discourse on Palestine in the US and advancing Palestinian rights. I would like to start off by first thanking those who supported us with organizing this event. I would like to start off by thanking ICSD for allowing us to use the space and sponsoring some of the event. I'd also like to thank Aladdin Mediterranean Restaurant, a Palestinian-owned restaurant in Claremont here, who sponsored some of the refreshments for tonight. We'd also like to thank Sacred Squeeze Lemonade and at Muntajat.al-Khalij, that's at mutajat.al-Khalij on Instagram for providing refreshments as well. Make sure to stop by at some point during the night. And then to our volunteers as well, thank you so much. And to those who intended on volunteering as well, barakallah feekum. Now, before we get started with our event, just one quick logistical thing. If you're going to have refreshments, please make sure to have them in the MPR. Please don't bring any food or drinks in the musalla. Water's okay, obviously. And then we have bathrooms for both sisters and brothers down on this floor. Now, with that all said, it is my pleasure to introduce our speakers for the first panel, who will touch on Palestine's importance to Islam from a historical viewpoint, and what we can learn from the faith and resilience shown by our Palestinian brothers and sisters. Dr. Subh and Sheikh Taha, thank you both for joining us tonight. Dr. Subh here is the chairman of the Islamic Shura Council of Southern California, which is an umbrella organization of all the different masajid and Islamic organizations across Southern California. He's also the religious director of the Islamic Center of Yorba Linda, a khatib and youth advisor at many Islamic centers, and a speaker at many churches, temples, universities, and schools. Thank you for visiting us, Dr. Subh, and pass it off to Sheikh Taha to start us off, inshallah.
Just for the sisters, whoever would like to use a chair, there are chairs in the back. If you need more, the brothers can bring you more chairs. Jazakumullah khair. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ثم أما بعد. My dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And Jazakumullah khair for taking the time to attend this event that, first of all, as I have said, I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for making it easy for us and bringing us together in this wonderful place, this wonderful night. And also, I would like to say Jazakumullah khair to our brothers and sisters from the American Muslim for Palestine and all the activists, especially the young brothers and sisters in the community. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all for all what you are doing. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the strength and the sincerity so you can continue doing the work that should be done in our community. Alhamdulillah. Also, I would like to thank my dear brother, Dr. Ahmed Subh, for taking the time and driving all the way from wherever in the LA area to come and join us tonight. and I told him that, inshallah, I will be brief in whatever I'm going to say and give him enough time. So, because we are eager to learn from him and from other speakers who are coming as well. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and bless all the speakers, and also may Allah bless you all for taking the time and reward you for every moment that you are spending. Your attendance to this event is a form of support to the struggle that is going on by our brothers and sisters in Gaza and Palestine. Alhamdulillah, I mean, I'm sure that most of what I'm going to say is already known, but this is just a reminder for all of us about why we are here, why we are standing, you know, strong as we can to show support to our brothers and sisters in Gaza and Palestine. So I would like to talk a little bit about the historical background. And I'm not going to go all the way to the beginning of the time. Anyone who would like to do any simple search online, you will know how old the human existence in the land of Palestine. And it's enough to know that the city of Ariha, Jericho, is known to be the oldest city in the world. The oldest city in the world. When I visited the city of Ariha last year, and the guide started showing us some of the signs of the human existence, subhanallah, it's amazing. It's amazing to know that that place is considered the oldest city in the world. And waves of humans, of immigrants, started, you know, settling in that area, way before, you know, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. We are talking about 7,000 years, 8,000 years before Prophet Isa alayhi salam. And then when Ibrahim alayhi salam migrated from northern Iraq to the Holy Land, to Palestine, then the story of all the prophets and the messengers who came after him, to the point that our scholars say that there is no prophet in the history of mankind except that he was born there, or he died there, or he spent some time in the Holy Land of Palestine. And this is what connects us as Muslims to that beautiful place, to that blessed land. And what made our connection stronger and stronger is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taking a stop, a pause in Bayt al-Maqdis in Jerusalem during his miraculous journey of al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. So he prayed in al-Masjid al-Aqsa, leading the prophets. It was the point for him in his journey from Mecca to Jerusalem, and then from Jerusalem to the highest heaven. This is what makes our connection stronger. And then after that, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam passed away without having the Holy Land and Al-Quds under the Muslim governance until the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, when the Muslim army was liberating the nations and the people of Sham, of Jordan and Palestine and Syria and Lebanon from the Roman occupation at that time. From the Roman occupation at that time. And then they arrived to the city of Jerusalem. It was known at that time by the name of Ilya. They surrounded the city, and they didn't want to attack the city. They didn't want any bloodshed in the city of Jerusalem until the patriarch decided to give away the key of the city. But he didn't want to give it to anyone except the highest authority of Muslims at that time. So Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah radiyallahu anhu the commander of the Muslim army at that time, he asked Umar ibn Khattab from al-Madinah to come and take over the key of the city. So Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu came and he took the key of the city. And then he got a tour in the city of Jerusalem. And then he wrote something, a very important document that I would like everyone to go back online and check this document. It's called Al-Uhdatul Umariyah, the pledge of Umar ibn al-Khattab to the people of Jerusalem, where he declared that the Christians of the city of Jerusalem are safe and secured, not only themselves, but all their properties, including their churches, including their sacred places. It's called Al-Uhdatul Umar. Go and read it. This is when the city of Jerusalem became under the governance of the Muslims, and this was in the year 637. In 688, during the Umayyad dynasty, Al-Khalifa Abdul Malik ibn Marwan started building the Dome of the Rock. The Dome of the Rock that we see right now, it didn't exist before that. That specific masjid, Masjid Qubbat al-Sakhra, it was built by Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, and he died before it was finished. So his son Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik was the one who finished the building. Harun al-Rashid, rahimahullah wa radiya anhu, during the Abbasi dynasty, made a decree to allow the Christians and of Constantinople, Byzantium at that time was the capital of the Roman Empire, to renovate and maintain the churches of Palestine. And he committed to protect Christians who want to visit the Christian holy places in Palestine. This is how people of different faiths lived under the Islamic governance in the land of Palestine. Then came after that the Crusaders, who decided in order to, for the Catholics in Europe, because of the corruption and the division that was going on in Europe, they decided to do something in order to make people stop doing the troubles that they were doing in Europe. So they declared, the Pope at that time made this announcement urging everyone to go and liberate, as he said, as he quoted, to liberate the place of Jesus Christ in the land of Palestine. And the Crusades started at that time, that started at the year 1099. And then, after almost 1 century, having Palestine and Jerusalem under the Crusaders, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi rahmatullahi alayhi wa radiya anh defeated the Crusaders in the famous battle of Hittin, very well known battle in the history of Islam and Muslims. After that, the Mongols, they came all the way from Central Asia and they started invading all the Middle East. And in the year 1259, Saifuddin Qutuz and Al-Zahir Bibers, they defeated the Mongol invasion in the famous battle of Ain Jalut, another famous battle in the history near Al-Nasirah, very close to the city of Al-Nasirah, Nazareth. And then came the Mamluki dynasty at that time. They took over Palestine and Al-Quds, and then the Ottomans took over in 1516, for almost 400 years, for 4 centuries. In 1917 came the British Empire, imposing the mandate on the land of Palestine. At the same year, the Declaration of Balfour that promised the land of Palestine to the Zionists until 1947, when the British Empire and the British Army was withdrawn from the land of Palestine. Then the Zionist militia took over to declare the independence in May 1948. But it was the year of Al-Nakba, the catastrophe at the same time. More than 750,000 Palestinians was expelled from their homes, from their properties, from their land, from their places. And they were pushed away from their land all over the place over there. To Lebanon, to Jordan, to Gaza at that time, to Egypt, wherever. This is what they call the independence. We call it al-Nakba, the catastrophe. At the same time, in 1948, the resistance started to support the people of Palestine by the fighters coming all the way from almost every Arab and Muslim country, mainly from Egypt, from Jordan, Syria, and Iraq. And they did an amazing job until the interference of the USA and the UK to stop the fighting, because the Muslim and the Arab fighters and the Palestinian fighters were taking ground. If it was not for this interference that stopped the fighting, which means sending away all the fighters from the land of Palestine and just allowing the Zionists to stay there and to gain the ground that they lost during this fighting of 1948. Since then, the resistance never stopped in the land of Palestine. In all forms and shapes, the resistance never stopped. Yes, sometimes it was intensified, but sometimes it was kind of, a small type of resistance, but never stopped. SubhanAllah, I remember, after the French army occupied Algeria, and the resistance started everywhere, local resistance here and there. And when one of the last resistance, were defeated, a leader by the name of Sheikh Boubaghla rahmatullahi alayh, he announced to start a resistance against the French. And he was almost alone with a very small group of people. And people came to him, they told him, Sheikh, what are you talking about? Are you going to defeat the French army? You are so weak, you don't have anyone around you. You know what he said? Subhanallah. And this applies on Palestine as well. He said, I don't want anyone from the future generations to come and say the Algerian people started resisting the occupation. I don't want this to be said by the people. We will never stop resisting. Even if I am by myself, I don't care. But I don't want future generations to say, my people stopped resisting the occupation. So, my dear brothers and sisters, 3 points that I would like to share with you, and I will conclude with this. Number one, since the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Al-Quds and Palestine became the central cause of the Ummah. Yes, the Ummah went through a lot. The Ummah suffered in many places in the world. And always the Ummah tried to come together and show support to one another. But when it comes to the cause of Palestine, it is unique. It is unique. It happened that sometimes other people in the Muslim Ummah, they were occupied. And because of Palestine, they left their lands and they went to Palestine to support the Palestinian struggle. Subhanallah. Why? Knowing that Palestine is the central issue of the Ummah and should remain the central issue of the Ummah. And we have seen at this moment since October the 7th, subhanallah, how the Ummah came together. I'm not talking about the rulers and the kings and those, I don't know what to call them. I'm talking about the people themselves. We have seen them moving. We have seen them, protesting and rallying and doing everything they could to show support to our brothers and sisters in Palestine, mashallah. Number two, Palestine also is a universal cause. Yes, for us as Muslims, Al-Quds, Jerusalem is part of our creed, is part of our aqidah. Whenever we read in the Quran, سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله. Whenever we read this, we remember. We remember the status of Palestine, the status of Al-Quds, the status of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa in our hearts. But also Palestine is a universal cause. Why? Because there are a lot of people around the world, whether they are Muslims or non-Muslims, who are against occupation, who are against injustice, who are against ethnic cleansing, who are against genocide, and who are against the apartheid system that's going on. This is not new. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when he came back from Taif, when the Prophet ﷺ came back from Taif, and he was prevented from entering his home, and he was forced to stay outside the city of Mecca for a few days and nights. A man among al-mushrikeen, the non-believers, by the name of Al-Mut'am ibn Adi, he didn't like this injustice that was done to the Prophet ﷺ. And he decided to take action against it. He took his sons and he went to the leaders of Quraysh telling them that what you are doing to Muhammad ﷺ is wrong. And I'm going to bring him, I'm going to allow him to enter his home under my own protection. And when he went to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked him to move to his home inside Mecca, the Prophet ﷺ didn't tell him that, I'm sorry, you are mushrik. I cannot do this. I cannot enter my home under the protection of a mushrik. He didn't tell him this. The Prophet ﷺ appreciated what Al-Mut'am ibn Uday did. Why? Because standing against injustice, against the dhulm, is a universal value. It's not an Islamic value but it is a universal value. Everyone is welcomed. When it comes to standing for the rights of the oppressed people, everyone is welcomed. Every effort, every hand, every voice is welcome to stand together against the oppression. Now, number 3, everyone can join the struggle from their own position. And they can do whatever they are able. We don't have to be all speakers. We don't have to be all writers. We don't have to be all, all of us doing this. No. Every one of us can do something maybe the other cannot do. Everyone can contribute his or her own way. You can speak up. You can write. You can take action. You can organize. You can join a protest. You can make a flyer. You can design a banner. Anything. The only thing that you cannot and you are not allowed to do is to remain passive. Just stay and do nothing. Make dua. The spiritual support is very important. But also taking action is very important. Rallying is very important. Marching in the streets is very important. I remember at the beginning of the rallies and the protests, a group of our youth approached me and asked me this question. Ya Sheikh, is it okay to protest? Is it okay to walk in the street? Showing, is this an Islamic way to show support to our brothers and sisters in Palestine? I was like, of course, yes. Of course it is. And remember when the Prophet ﷺ in the year 6 of prophethood, 6 years after he became a prophet, when the struggle became very strong, a dhulm became intense on him and his companions, what did he do to raise his voice? What did he do to let the entire people in Mecca and Arabia understand that we are here, we exist? He organized a march in the streets of Mecca. And he organized his companions in 2 rows, Saffain. One of them led by Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib, radiyallahu anhu. The other one led by Umar al-Khattab, radiyallahu anhu. And by the way, the Prophet ﷺ organized this rally when Umar al-Khattab accepted Islam. The Sahaba, the number of Sahaba were 39. When Umar accepted Islam, they became 40. And because of Hamza and Umar, one of the 2 strongest people in Mecca, were Muslims, then the Prophet ﷺ decided to organize this march in the streets of Mecca. And he knew that the people of Mecca are not going to roll the red carpet for them. They are not going to, stand in lines, around them and throwing flowers and roses. No. Actually, what happened is totally the opposite. They were stoned. They were beaten. And the Prophet ﷺ knew this. But this is one of the strongest means sometimes to show the people that we are here and we exist, and we are going through a lot, and we are raising our voices. So all the means and the ways that we do to educate people, to raise our voices, to tell people that we are here and we exist, we should do them. Never belittle anything. No, never say that by myself, I cannot make a difference. Yes, maybe as a one individual, but if all of us, we come together and we make pressure, you will see the result. When we talk about approaching, or addressing our politicians and our elected officials and signing petitions, when we sign a petition, we don't beg our politicians, please, would you please, endorse this resolution in the No, we don't do this. We pressure them, we demand them to sign on the resolution, because they are our elected officials. They are paid with our tax money. We hired them, we elected them over there, so we want them to do it, whether they like it or not. If they don't want, we shame them. We do whatever we can to embarrass them. And we have seen what the movement in the US did to many coward elected officials who have been instructed literally word by word what to say. Because we have seen them saying the same or responding the same way. They were instructed, wallahi, believe it or not, sending to them exactly what you should say. If you are asked this question, this is the answer. If you are asked this question, this is the answer. And it's our right to shame them, to press them, and to make any type of pressure on them. So when we do this, we're not begging them. We want them to do or to listen to their constituents. We want them to listen to their constituents. And this is the least that we can do. So all these means and ways, my brothers and sisters, why we do this? The bottom line is to keep the cause of Palestine alive in our hearts and minds. Not only for the people of this time, but also for our future generations. Look around and see who are the organizers of these protests and actions. Wallahi, they are our young brothers and sisters. They are very young brothers and sisters in the community. And this is a very important element of hope that we have. The cause of Palestine will never end until the liberation, until we see the entire Palestine liberated from occupation. جزاكم الله خيرا بارك الله فيكم حفظكم الله والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
That was a very lame clap. Clap like a believer. That was a powerful speech. There you go. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسوله أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى تابعيهم ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. You've heard that I drove from Orange County to come and be with you here. So before I start my talk, I'd like to tell you why I drove an hour and a half to come talk for half an hour, 40 minutes, and then go back, drive another hour and a half. It's because I am extremely impressed and proud of every single young Muslim activist who is sacrificing time and comfort and going through threats and intimidation and harassment on campuses. You are making us all proud. You are defending our community. You are defending our brothers and sisters in Gaza. You are defending their right to live and be humans, and you're defending our rights to speak up. So for every single member of any MSA, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. Keep it going. And I want you to know, just like other faith student associations are supported by their own organizations, we are behind you. The Shura Council was able to collect $20,000 to the MSA West campaign to support your MSA groups to reach their goal. So make sure that you get some of that. If you have any project, if you have any plan that you want to do on your campus, speak up, come to Sheikh Taha, come to the masjid. If they're not able to support you financially, talk to us, the Shura Council. If you need legal counseling, talk to us. If you need mental health counseling, come to us. We will do everything we can. You have a strong community behind you. Don't feel that you're alone. Don't feel that you're not backed. You have a strong community who is supporting you and proud of you and everything that you do. So keep it up. Inshallah, you will make a difference. Since we are in a masjid, let us connect what we need to do from an Islamic perspective. There is a verse in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks to Prophet Muhammad and to each one of us, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he said, Taha ma anzalna alayka al-Qur'ana litashqa. We have not given you the Quran to make your life miserable. The rules and the instructions in the Quran are made to make our life easy. Actually, Allah clearly said, those who follow my guidance, they will not regret it, they will not be sad, they will not be sorry. There is no fear upon them. So every instruction that Allah put for us in the Quran, every command, every guideline is to make our life successful and to make us happier. And the instruction of Allah in the Quran, they can come straightforward. Do this, don't do that. But they also could go and come as examples and stories. So every single story that's mentioned in the Quran is meant for us to conclude lessons from it. 3 stories, all of us know them. Let us really quickly revise them or review them and see how we can apply the lessons we learn from them in what's going on right now in Gaza and here in America. The 3 stories are very famous. The birth of Isa alayhi salam. When Maryam was given birth to Prophet Isa alayhi salam, when Sayyidina Maryam was pregnant and going through labor, she was feeling very hopeless. To the point she said, I wish I would have died before this. The second story of Musa alayhi salam, when he was fleeing with his people from Fir'aun, they reached the sea and they thought that's it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him what to do, to strike the water, a path, and they went to the other side. And the story of Ayub alayhi salam, who went through a very severe calamity to the point he reached hopelessness, or what looks like a hopeless situation, yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fixed the situation. In each one of these 3 stories, we see a very desperate moment that we think there is no way out of it. We think there is no exit, no hope. Yet, it's proven to us that it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who controls the universe, not the universe who controls Allah. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who can change the laws of nature, the laws of politics, the laws of economics, not the other way around. So the first lesson we get from these 3 stories is what? Always have trust in Allah's ability to make a change for us. But a very important lesson, second lesson from these 3 stories we get. Maryam alayhi salam was very weak, given birth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could simply send her food without her doing anything. Yet He asked her to do what? Shake the palm tree. If each one of us right now, if all of us go together outside to a palm tree and shake it together, we're not going to drop one date. Why would Allah ask a pregnant woman who barely can move to shake the palm tree, knowing that it's not going to make a difference, and Allah could have helped her without her doing anything? Why? Prophet Musa alayhi salam, if all of us right now go to the beach with sticks and hit the water for 24 hours, are we going to open path that gets us to Japan? No. Why would Allah ask from Prophet Musa, اضرب البحر رهوا, hit the water? Allah could have simply opened it, split the water, and they will be saved, and He would not need to do anything. Why? Prophet Ayub became so ill, so weak, that if he has to go to the bathroom, his wife had to carry him. When he said, إِنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الضُّرُّ وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ, I've been afflicted with a calamity and you're the most merciful. Allah told him what? اضرب برجلك. Kick the ground with your foot. Why? Allah could have simply sent him water without him doing anything. And knowing that him kicking the ground is not going to make a difference. If we all stand up and jump up and down right now, not a single drop of water will come out. Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ask people to do things knowing it's not going to make a difference with the physical laws, and He could have helped them without doing anything? The answer is, whenever you are going through a hopeless moment or a desperate situation and you need Allah's help, you have to take the first step. You have to take the initiative. You have to do your part. Allah's not going to send you victory or success while you're kicking back on your couch playing video games. Allah's not going to give you success in life and support against struggle by simply doing a dua. It's not enough. You have to take the first step. And what we've been going through in the past 6 to 8 weeks is a very difficult situation, especially for our brothers and sisters in Gaza. 4 things been taking place in the past 8 weeks. A genocide, and don't be shy from saying that. A massacre, an atrocity that's taken place against our brothers and sisters in Gaza. Children, women, men, elderly, young. A powerful war machine, a terrorist state has been attacking our brothers and sisters in Gaza. That's number 1. We saw it all. Number 2, at the same time, they've been portrayed as the bad guys. You cannot, I get disgusted watching the media nowadays, by the way, especially the first 3 or 4 weeks. Now things are getting a little bit better. But the first month, I could not watch news. I could not open the internet because I want to throw up. People are getting killed and they've been blamed for their death. They've been blamed for being humans. And the dehumanization of the people of Gaza reached a different level. So the world can be okay to see them getting killed. So these 2 things were taking place in Gaza. But 2 more things were taking place here in America. A vicious attack, a vicious Islamophobic attack on our community, on our faith, on our religion. Elected officials, congressmen and women issuing statement saying it Islamic terrorism. The Board of Supervisors in Orange County, whom we have good relationship with them, they sent a letter, and in it they said, we ask all the Muslim leaders of Orange County to join us condemning Islamic terrorism. A vicious Islamophobic attack on our faith and our community here in America that was taking place at the same time. And on top of that, number 4, a suppression of our voices. How many of you were suspended from a social media account? How many of you posted something, but subhanAllah, no one is liking it? Right? You used to have tens or hundreds of people liking your things, but what's going on here? People don't like me anymore? No, it was a systematic effort to suppress our voices. The first week of the conflict, I was interviewed by 13 news outlets. NPR, New York Times, Washington Post, from both sides of the political spectrum. But because I did not say what they want me to say, none of them published anything that I said. That was frustrating for us to see. We signed contracts with billboard companies, the same billboards that they put signs that says pray for Israel. We signed and we paid, including one of them here in Tri-City Masjid, to put a billboard that says pray for Gaza. They came back and say we cannot do that. We cannot publish that. We cannot put that on the freeway. Some of them will make lame excuses. Others were blunt and they said, one of the executives says, I cannot do this. This is too personal for me. It's not going to happen under my watch. This suppression of our freedom of speech on campus, what happened to you? Threatened that you're not going to get a job. You're going to get expelled. attacks of you being anti-Semitic. These attempt to suppress our voices and our opinions was frustrating. These 4 things were taking place at the same time the first month of the conflict. Now it's getting a little bit less. So what do we do in these situations? I've been going around to the masajid and to the MSAs sharing 7 don'ts and 5 do's. 7 things that I don't want you to do them when you are going through such a crisis. The war on Gaza, this is not the first time. By the way, I have a khutbah on Gaza prepared, and I put it in my file, and every 2 years I pull it out and I go say it. The same khutbah, exactly. Why? Because it's the same atrocities, the same killing happened 2019, 2000. Since the first one I tell my parents was 2006. So it's not going to end. It's going to keep going on. So next time something like this happen, remember these 7 points and 5 points. Nowadays, you still can work on them. What are they? Number 1, learning from the story of Maryam alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam, Ayyub alayhi salam. The first don't is what? Do not lose hope. Do not ever say, this issue in Palestine will never be solved. It will be solved. Never an occupation lasted forever. Never an apartheid regime lasted forever. Never injustice lasts forever. The Crusaders occupied Jerusalem for how many years? 100 years? 80 something, 80 to 100 years? Back and forth. Eventually it was liberated. Right? It's Algeria. How long was it occupied by the French? 132 years. Million shaheed they paid. Eventually what happened? They were liberated. Every single people, every single nation that fights for its freedom will get it eventually. Never ever lose hope. And what's happening now about us here, the attacks, the Islamophobia against us, don't lose hope. Don't let it make you lose hope. That's number 1. Number 2, this might sound a little bit hypocritical. Don't be sad. Now, I know we all were sad. I cried when I saw the father carrying the dead body of his daughter. I cried when I saw the grandfather kissing the eyes of his dead granddaughter. I cried when I saw the little boy trying to wake up his dead mother. That was painful. But don't let that sadness control your life. Why? First of all these beautiful children and all these beautiful people who died in Gaza, where are they right now? They're in Jannah. They're shuhada. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, do not think they're dead. They're alive, enjoying life with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah. Allah said that. So yes, we will cry. And yes, our hearts will bleed to those people, but do not let that overwhelm your feelings and make you be crippled, not able to do anything. So that was number 2, don't be sad. Number 3, do not be confused. Since the beginning, they've been telling us, oh, it all started on October 7th. Oh, the Gaza people started this. Don't let that confuse you. We all know the history we just heard. 75 years of occupation, 17 years of blockade against Gaza. Every week there are people getting killed in Gaza. Get your facts straight and right. There are so many sources online you can learn and study about the facts so you don't get confused. Just 2 months before the attack on Gaza, there was a massacre in Jenin. Just 1 month before that, there was an attack in Nablus. Just few weeks before that, there was an attack on Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. This is not out of the blue. This is not out of a vacuum. This is a constant occupation who's been bombarding and killing people all the time. Make sure that's clear in your mind. And make sure your friends and your family members know that. Because you get some people say, oh, but the people of Gaza started. No, the people of Gaza did not start it. It was a natural, expected outcome for the pressure that they've been going on. Just a year or 2 ago, there was a peaceful demonstration in Gaza. What happened to it? People got killed, shot. So don't get confused. That was number 3. Number 4, and this is important especially for young people, do not be afraid to speak up the truth. Don't let anyone intimidate you to be quiet and do nothing. They will try to scare you. They will try to tell you, if you do this, you're going to lose your job. If you do this, you're not going to get a job after you graduate. If you do this, you know what? As Muslims, what do we believe? Who is Ar-Razzaq? Is it your boss? Is it your customer? No. You're going to lose a deal, Allah will make it up for you. You're going to lose a job, Allah will get you another job. Don't ever let anyone scare you or threaten you or intimidate you to be passive and not do anything about this. Don't be scared. You're going to lose a friend? One less bad friend. You don't need them. Right? Never ever allow anyone to... Now, I'm not asking you to be reckless, but don't let anyone intimidate you and scare you, so do not be scared. That was number 4. Number 5, do not forget. Do not forget the officials and the elected positions who spoke in a way that's very offensive to us. Do not forget. They come to our masajid, right, Sheikh Taha? We shake their hands, we take pictures with them. Do not forget that. Next time you meet them, tell them, we don't forget what you said about Palestine. We don't forget what you said about us. I met with so many elected officials in the past 8 weeks, and I made sure that I say it in their face. What you just said was very offensive to us. What you just said is not right. You come to our masjid and you shake our hands, you expect us to vote for you, but we're not happy with what you said. Don't forget. Don't forget those famous people, influencers on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube, whom we used to love listening to them. Don't forget what they said about Gaza. Don't go back to listen to them after what they did. Don't forget the companies that are publicly and proudly supporting. Don't go back and give them your dollars. Don't forget. Number 6, do not act emotionally. We're angry. We are upset. If you go to a demonstration, do not act emotionally. Do not damage a property. Do not say something to someone that's not right. Do not do anything that's illegal. Make sure that you control your emotions. Make sure that you control your actions. Because when we act in a wrong way, it's going to harm the cause of Palestine. They're going to look at us and say, see, these are the supporters of Palestine. They are damaging our cars. They are damaging our properties. They are saying bad things to us. Be civil. Yes, we're angry. Yes, we're upset. But what you say and what you do will reflect on our image as a Muslim community, and it will reflect on the image of the Palestinian people. That was number 6. I missed one. Try to remember it. I'll go to the do's, and if I remember the 7th one, I'll come back to it. What to do in these situations? Number 1, you heard it from Sheikh Taha. Be engaged. Each one of us should have written a letter, sent an email, or made a call to our elected officials, to our school boards, to our governor, to our congressmen, to our mayors, to everybody. Make sure that it does make a difference. We did what we call it a call for action night in several masajid in Orange County and LA, where we gathered the community like this, and we put like a little QR code on the wall, and everyone there will just scan it with their phone. Immediately, it puts a letter. You put your name and your zip code and press send. It takes it to all the elected officials in your district. We were able to send over 500,000 letters. Did it make a difference? Absolutely it did. Now we're getting calls from these congressmen and congresswomen, please, we'd like to meet you. Hold one here. Hold one at your MSA. Hold one at your masjid. A call to action. We did the same. A QR code. You scan it on your phone. It puts a letter that you send it to Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, and any other outlet. Send, it goes to them right away. We did postcards. Get that postcard, write your name and mail it out. But do something. It will make a difference. Many years ago, the mayor of Los Angeles issued a statement in support of Israel. Again, 10, 15 years ago, the same situation. We held a meeting with him. We called for a meeting. He invited us. Before we went to the meeting, we asked all the community members to call his office to support us that we're going. We got to his office. We asked his staff, did you get calls from our community? They said, yes. But for every call we got from your community, we got 10 or 20 from the other side. Whom do you think the mayor is going to listen to? Our congressman in our area, we went to him and we asked him, why do you always vote in favor of Israel? He said, because whenever there is an attack on Gaza, you guys go to Brookhurst. You know where Brookhurst is in Anaheim? You go to Brookhurst, you block the street, you demonstrate, but the other side are here in my office with their checkbooks. Where do you think I'm going to vote? How do you think I'm going to vote? We need to understand how the game is being played. We need to understand that our letters, our emails, and our checks will make a difference, not our loud screams. Be aware of that. So be engaged, number one. Number two, be an alternative source of information and media outlet. Because all these outlets out there are saying, we're saying things really bad against us and still doing that. But you can share with your friend your WhatsApp videos. How many of you see videos on WhatsApp? All of us, right? Painful videos. You're on Instagram, send it out. Make sure that people, your neighborhood, your workers, your coworkers, your classmates, they're seeing the things that you're seeing. If you are able to just reach out 5 people, just 5 people, that multiply us by 5. That's good. Number 3, participate in demonstrations, as Sheikh Taha said. Don't belittle it. It does make a difference. But not by itself, but it will make a difference. Thousands and thousands of people around the world are going. So let's be part of that. And number 5, I forgot, stopped counting. Support financially. Please, support financially. Make sure that you are able to save some money and send it to an organization that is working for the cause of Palestine. And I'm sorry for anyone who works for Islamic Relief or Baytul Mal or Zakah Foundation. You are doing a great job. But we as American Muslims should focus more on supporting on political engagement organizations. I'm telling everyone, please, give AMP. I've been going around to the masajid. I don't work for AMP, American, but I believe that this is the work that we need to support. Imagine, I've been demonstrating and going out in rallies for the sake of Palestine since 1999, year 2000. And we're going in the streets and we're repeating exactly the same slogans over and over again. The only difference is the name of the Israeli president. It was Shamir, Sharon, Olmert, and now it's Netanyahu. The same. And we collected so much money to send food and medicine and clothes to the people of Palestine and Gaza. I say, if we just took 20% of that money over the past 20 years, and we supported organizations like AMP, the situation in Gaza today would be much better. We have to understand that. People in Kuwait and Qatar and other Muslim countries are giving millions of dollars to Gaza. Our money should support political engagement as much as we can. We have to understand that. This is how we'll make a difference in their lives. Be a monthly member or a monthly donor to organizations like this. Alhamdulillah, a lot of organizations right now are popping out. There's an organization that I'm part of, it's called Paint the Nation. Have you heard about it? Did you see the screen in New York Times Square in New York? Did you see the billboard in LA? Did you see that? Now we're doing that. The trucks that are driving, we rented an 18-wheeler. We put all of its signs, Save Gaza, Pray for Gaza, with text message, and they're driving in the freeways of the counties. This effort is a coalition of organizations throughout the nation to make a difference in the image of the cause. Another organization called United Powers, United Voices, to support candidates. This is a political lobbying, to support candidates who are willing to speak up against the atrocity of the Israeli government and shame those who don't. So these are things now, alhamdulillah, are popping out and coming out and becoming strong. And inshallah, we'll see the difference of that. And finally, if you're able to attend a meeting with your elected official, do it. But do it strategically. When you go to attend a meeting with a congressman or a congresswoman, you're not going to meet your therapist. You're not there to tell them how bad you feel. You're not there to cry for them. These are vicious politicians. They're snakes. They will laugh. I met with the congresswoman in our area, in one of the areas. For 5 minutes of the meeting, she was sobbing with tears when I was talking about the people of Gaza. Do you think I believe her? She's like, oh, she was really like she had to put napkins on. They are politicians. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, we met with him last Friday. When we were talking to him, he started crying. Do I believe that? Of course not. You have to understand that these people are not straightforward, honest people. The politicians know how to do politics. They have tactics. They will tell you sometimes things that you like to hear. My ask to you that be prepared and make sure that you talk to them properly, not emotionally. Because if you go there and start fighting with them and yell at them, they're not going to meet with you again. There are ways to it. So meet with them. Have a strategy. Now, the next thing we need to do, Sheikh Taha, is to train our community how to talk to elected officials, how to get the demands without being played with them, by them. So that is something that we need to keep in mind. So I'll stop here and open it for maybe comments or Q&A. But we are doing a great job, honestly. I mean, it's not the same. What happened in Gaza in October and 9/11 are not the same, but the Islamophobia attack that happens after them are the same. What's different is how we as a community responded. How we dealt with 9/11, post 9/11 Islamophobia, and how we dealt with current Islamophobia showed that we are maturing as a community. That we're not those little kids that you can slap them and they will go run cry in the corner anymore. And this is what I've been calling for the past 10 years. We don't want people's sympathy. We want people's respect. People will sympathize for you for some time, then they'll get sick of it. But when they respect you, they would not come and harm you in a way or another. Our respect, because we deserve respect. We are a strong community. We have money. We have contributions to the society. We have professionals. We have organizations. Our Muslim organizations are maturing and developing in a very nice way. So we are doing a great job when it came to this attack. And the results are seen right now. We are getting calls to see what do we want after they saw the heat that we give as a community. So keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't be intimidated. Don't be scared. Be civil. Be polite. Be respectful. Strategize and plan, and you will see the results, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair for listening, and I'm open for any comments or corrections or questions or anything that you'd like to add. Jazakumullah khair. Go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Alaikum salam.
An amazing talk from both of you. The idea that you talked about political engagement and everything, that actually has been a conversation among people in my circles and everything. And as we know,
Does he have a mic maybe? Keep going. I'll repeat your question.
I'll project mine. As we know, the other side has AIPAC and other really strong political engagement that's ahead of us by 70 years or so. And
100.
100 years of political engagement, especially in the U.S. How do we, as Muslims and as across the spectrum, just all pro-Palestinian activists, how do we do political engagement? Mashallah, like the Muslim community in particular is doing very well financially. How do we get them to contribute to that cause? And would a super PAC or a PAC that is geared towards the Palestinian cause be one of the solutions or not?
It is. So the question is, how do we reach to the level of the other side in our political engagement, and would super PACs be the answer for this? Super PACs are a must. We have to have it. And the one that I just mentioned to you, the United Front or United, I'll give you the exact name. That's exactly what it's doing. And it's mainly for the cause of dealing with people about the Palestine issue topic. So yes, PACs are organizations who are able legally to support, endorse, or criticize campaigns and nominees, so they can and advise us how to vote for them. The problem that our community is not used to it yet. You know, if I tell you there is a kid in Gaza crying, all of us will send money. But if I tell you there is a politician who's saying bad things, I don't feel like giving money, right? We need to mature when it's that, and we are, right? When you said 100% correct that we are still young compared to the other side. CARE, for example, how old is CARE? 30 years old. ADL, which is an equivalent organization at the Jewish community, is 130 years old. APAC, how old is it? Taha, how old is APAC? 120, 130 years old. Right? AMP, how old is it? 10, 15 years. So we're at least 100. This is one of the oldest masajid in San Diego, right? How old is this masjid? Do you know when was it? 87, right? So we're talking about almost 40 years old, right? Look at the synagogues in San Diego. How old are they? 100, 150 years old. So I always keep saying that we are the new kid on the block as a community, but we are doing great. So yes, we need to reach out to people and educate them. Set some time with your friends to sit down with Tahir from AMP, with Sister Malak from this San Diego chapter, and let us talk about how can we, and educate people about the importance of work like AMP. Your generation will understand that. Inshallah, in 10 years, you'll be a millionaire, right? And you will give organizations like this, inshallah. Good point. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead. Yes. I'll shortly answer, then I'll give it to Sheikh Taha. Yes. We have to understand something. Our government, the question is, how can we fight, or how can we face those super PACs, and knowing that our government has a certain motive to support the state of Israel and the atrocities of this. Did I repeat it right, your question? Okay. So we have to understand that our government is a vehicle. It goes in the direction of who's driving it. So if we are strong enough to drive it, then we will change that course. And I remember the point that I wanted to say it earlier, and it's related. Thank you for that question. The point is, when you see an Islamophobic attack on us here in America, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised that every time there is an attack or a conflict in the Middle East, that it will reflect on an Islamophobic attack on us in America. Why is that? I heard one of the former advisors of one of the former presidents, a professor in one of the universities, very smart politician. He said, it is intended to make American Muslims look bad in the eyes of the public, so they do not influence the foreign policies of America and how it affects the conflict in the Middle East. There is a documentary on YouTube. It's called Real Bad Arabs. Anyone watched it? Real Bad Arabs. Only 2 people watch it. Everyone should watch it. It's 50 minutes. Go and watch it tomorrow. You have a long weekend. 50 minutes. Real Bad Arabs. It shows you how Hollywood intentionally made Muslims and Arabs look bad. And this advisor that I was talking to, he said it was intended to make Arabs and Muslims in America look bad as terrorists or as rich idiots who spend their money on silly things, so they do not influence the foreign policy of the United States. If we are strong and if we are respected in America, we will be able to change that foreign policy approach of the United States. Believe me, we will. It's not... Again, America is a vehicle. It's not an ideology. It's like it will do what the strong component of America will do. When we become strong, we will be able to affect that and change it in a way or another. So that is the point that was mentioned earlier. And it takes time, inshallah. And again, just like I started the talk, don't ever say there's no way we can do this. We will. The stories of Maryam and Musa and Ayyub alayhi salam was meant to tell you, never sit down and say, there's no way I'll defeat these super PACs. You will. You will. But you have to know how to play it. One of the super PACs donated to Obama $700 million. $700 million. That's why his decisions were made in a certain way. So we need to be able to support in such a way or donate in such a way so we can influence the positions, the deals. The sister had her hand up. Oh, I will add to that.
Jazakallah khair. I think you gave the right answer. However, I remember years ago when we had one of the election forums here right before one of the elections, and we had a candidate running for the Congress by the name of Bob Filner, if you still remember him. One of our committee members stood up and he asked him, what kind of foreign policy are going to support the Muslim the Muslim point of view, American Muslims foreign policy. And then Bob Filner, I remember, he smiled at him and he told him, first of all, thank you so much for having me at your Islamic Center. This is the first time, this is a good step. And then he asked him, do you know who is representing you at the city council? He didn't know. Do you know who is representing you at the state assembly? He didn't know. He told him, listen, it's good to think about the American foreign policy, but it's not gonna happen until you start influencing your own local officials. This is how it starts. I go further than that. It's not gonna happen until we will be, as American Muslims, strong within ourselves, within our masajid, within our communities. So the strength from within will be demonstrated, inshaAllah, will be reflected in the strength outside. If we are not strong within ourselves, we will never be strong outside. We will never have any type of influence outside. Jazakumullah khair. And let me just remind everyone that what's going on in Palestine is not a conflict, is not a war. It's a genocide. Let's not forget this. It's a genocide. It's an ethnic cleansing. Always. Jazakumullah khair. Nasser.
Yes. Exactly. One more point. Most of the politicians will come and ask you, now you woke up, now you came, only when there is something in Palestine. Where were you when there was an immigration problem? Where were you when there was a healthcare problem? Where were you when there is a refugee problem? Where were you when there is a... We have to be involved with these things. And if there is someone who can teach us how to be involved in this, is this individual right here. He's been on the front lines, fighting social injustice, regardless who it is affecting to. Whether it's the African American community, the Hispanic community, the Asian community. Don't be selfish and just go when there is something about us. This is what we learned from the other side, by the way. The other side was very active in going around and being strong in defending others, not just only themselves. We don't do it for the sake of selfishness. We do it because that's what our religion is asking us to do. Our religion is telling us to stand up for injustice wherever you see it. If you see injustice, what you should do, change it. If you cannot change it, speak against it. If you cannot speak against it, at least reject it with your heart. So let us be involved with all these causes so they can be involved with us when we are needing them. Jazakumullah khair.
Barakallahu feekum, Dr. Subh and Sheikh Taha. Inshallah, we'll be breaking for the first 2 rak'at. Omar, who's leaving? Okay, Amin. Okay. No, it's okay.
استووا استقيموا واعتدلوا. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله فمن حج البيت أو اعتمر فلا جناح عليه أن يطوف بهما ومن تطوع خيرا فإن الله شاكر عليم إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزلنا من البينات والهدى من بعد ما بيناه للناس في الكتاب أولئك يلعنهم الله ويلعنهم اللاعنون إلا الذين تابوا وأصلحوا وبينوا فأولئك أتوب عليهم وأنا التواب الرحيم إن الذين كفروا وماتوا وهم كفار أولئك عليهم لعنة الله والملائكة والناس أجمعين خالدين فيها لا يخفف عنهم العذاب ولا هم ينظرون وإلهكم إله واحد لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار والفلك التي تجري في البحر بما ينفع الناس وما أنزل الله من السماء من فأحيا به الأرض بعد موتها وبث فيها من كل دابة وتصريف الرياح والسحاب المسخر بين السماء والأرض لآيات لقوم يعقلون ومن الناس من يتخذ من دون الله أندادا يحبونهم كحب الله والذين آمنوا أشد حبا لله ولو يرى الذين ظلموا إذ يرون العذاب أن القوة لله جميعا وأن الله شديد العذاب إذ تبرأ الذين اتبعوا من الذين اتبعوا ورأوا العذاب وتقطعت بهم الأسباب وقال الذين اتبعوا لو أن لنا كرة فنتبرأ منهم كما تبرؤوا منا كذلك يريهم الله أعمالهم حسرات عليهم وما هم بخارجين من النار يا أيها الناس كلوا مما في الأرض حلالا طيبا ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين إنما يأمركم بالسوء والفحشاء وأن تقولوا على الله ما لا تعلمون الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين كافها يا عين صاد ذكر رحمة ربك عبده زكريا إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا قال رب إني وهن العظم مني واشتعل الرأس شيبا ولم أكن بدعائك رب شقيا وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي وكانت امرأتي عاقرا فهب لي من لدنك وليا يرثني ويرث من آل يعقوب واجعله ربي رضيا يا زكريا إنا نبشرك بغلام اسمه يحيى لم نجعل له من قبل سميا قال رب أنى يكون لي غلام وكانت امرأتي عاقرا وقد بلغت من الكبر عتيا قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين وقد خلقتك من قبل ولم تك شيئا قال رب اجعل لي آية قال آيتك ألا تكلم الناس 3 ليال سويا فخرج على قومه من المحراب فأوحى إليهم أن سبحوا بكرة وعشيا يا يحيى خذ الكتاب بقوة يا يحيى خذ الكتاب بقوة وآتيناه الحكم صبيا وحنانا من لدنا وزكاة وكان تقيا وبرا بوالديه ولم يكن جبارا عصيا وسلام عليه يوم ولد ويوم يموت ويوم يبعث حيا واذكر في الكتاب مريم إذ انتبذت من أهلها مكانا شرقيا فاتخذت من دونهم حجابا فأرسلنا إليها روحنا فتمثل لها بشرا سويا قالت إني أعوذ بالرحمن منك إن كنت تقيا قال إنما أنا رسول ربك لأهب لك غلاما زكيا قالت أنى يكون لي غلام ولم يمسسني بشر ولم أك بغيا قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين ولنجعله آية للناس ورحمة منا وكان أمرا مقضيا الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
We're going to start again in 5 minutes. There's refreshments in the NPR if anyone wants to go get some. But we'll start again in 5 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. I'd like to introduce our speakers for the second panel on student activism and activism post-college life. With us tonight, we have Taha Hirzullah. He is the Director of Outreach and Grassroots Organizing for the American Muslims for Palestine. He's also one of the 11 students at UCI who were prosecuted for staging a protest on campus during a speech by then Israeli Ambassador Michael Oren. We also have with us tonight Osama Shabaik. Osama is an attorney, Harvard Law graduate, and co-founder of Tahini and Finjan coffee shop in San Diego. Osama was also one of the 11 students at UC Irvine arrested for their participation in the same protest. With that said, I'll pass it to Tahir to start things off.
All right. It's always like that at comedy shows, you know? The guy coming from outside starts the show for hometown champion. Jazakallah khair. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala khatam al-anbiya wal-mursaleen Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. First of all, I want to say any event with knafa being served is already the top event in the country. I'll just tell you that right now. I've never been to a qiyam at a masjid where they served knafa. That's the first time for me. So I'll say that. And very proud of this community, very honored to be here. And I want to start by saying that, I'm just going to put this here because I want to start by saying that it's of critical importance that the imams and masjid leadership are opening the space for the mosques to be a space of political organizing in this moment. And I'm very especially honored and proud of Sheikh Taha. You know, Abu Bakr once said about al-Qaqa', he said that لَن يُهْزَمْ جَيْشٌ فِيهِ مِثْلُ الْقَعْقَعِ, that there will never be an army defeated so long as they have a man like Qaqa' in that army. He was a Sahabi of the Prophet ﷺ. And I believe that in this community, لن تهزم جالية فيها مثل Sheikh Taha. فماشاءالله, this is a blessing to have shuyukh who get it, shuyukh who are down, shuyukh who encourage the work and the fight for justice. And this is something I'm extremely delighted about and very grateful for. I want to preface this discussion by saying that activism is not a concept, to me at least, that is limited to a certain time period or limited to a certain place. I believe that we are all endowed with a disposition and an obligation towards enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, no matter what time and place we're in. And that the discussion about, you know, college versus after college, et cetera, for me, is just a marker for the different phases of our activism in our life. And so I'm glad to be talking about that today. But I also want to just emphasize that, you know, there shouldn't be this false dichotomy in our understanding of activism or understanding of the time that is right for us to do what is good. And that, subhanAllah, it reminds me of a discussion that we had right after we were arrested during the Irvine 11 in 2010. We had a session here at this masjid, actually, in that hall. And a sister came up to me afterwards and she said, you know, brother, I'm really proud of you and what you did, but you know, I would never let my son do that. And don't you think that if you waited until you graduated, that you would have been more effective in your protest? And I was not surprised by this comment because I had heard something similar before. But what I said to her was, sister, there is no characteristic or there is no limit for anyone to do the right thing. I don't need to necessarily be an engineer or a doctor in order for me to speak up, in order for me to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. When has this ever been the case? Does this mean that the revolution is only meant for the upper echelons of society? Those who have the most wealth to lose? Those who have the most at stake? No, I think that doesn't make sense whatsoever. And I think that the youth, the shabab, the people who are the most energized about these issues are the ones who are going to naturally speak out. The ones who are naturally going to be the ones at the front lines. The ones who are naturally going to be the ones who are standing up for justice and against this injustice. And so, for me, there is no timestamp for when activism starts and when activism ends. It's something that you're doing constantly in your entire life. And to address the issue of student activism, though, in particular, I want to take us back to a certain time period that's very important. 1968. I know it seems like a long time ago, but it's a very important touchstone moment, rupture, I would say, in the history of the world. 1968. 1968, a lot of things were happening. Anybody want to guess what was happening at that time? Yes. The Vietnam War. Yes, absolutely. Anything else happened in 1968 of major significance? I'm sorry? Civil rights movement was in full swing. Yes. Anything else happened that year that was very important? Assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Okay? So you had Martin Luther King Jr., who gave his famous speech about the 3 evils of society. Anybody know what they are? The 3 evils of society? Excessive materialism, yes. Money. What else? Come on, guys. I know this is a qiyam, but I'm an academic, so. What is it? Fame? No. It's okay. Some people could stay quiet. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing. All right. Excessive materialism, racism, and militarism. He said the 3 evils of society. And what did he say in that speech? He said that the United States of America is the largest purveyor of violence in the world. By April 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Okay? His assassination, coupled with opposition to the Vietnam War globally, we're not talking about just in the United States, globally, the student movement in the United States had erupted in this period. Not just because of the Vietnam War, because of the draft and nobody wanted to be drafted to an unjust war, no. But because people started recognizing that everything they were learning in school was Eurocentric. That the history that they were being taught was all based on what the white man did. Was imbued with white supremacy. And so the students rose up. The students rose up and they said, no. We don't accept the premise that this is what higher education is. Be it at the university level, in the high schools, or elementary. And the students rose up. And so there's a famous moment, the summer of 1968, so much is happening. Students erupt in protests simultaneously across the globe, but particularly in the United States of America. And one of the biggest protests that took place in 1968 was the strike that was led at San Francisco State University. Anybody ever heard of this before? 5 months straight, the students organized a strike where every single day from noon to 3 p.m., they went on strike. They left their classes, they went out into the middle square of the campus, and they marched towards the administration building, demanding changes in the curriculum, demanding inclusion, because the university leadership and faculty were all white. But you had a student body base that was all Asian, black, Arab, et cetera, et cetera. So they're like, this is unacceptable. So they're trying to force themselves into the inclusion process, all right? And for 5 months straight, they engaged in a strike. At Columbia University, things went down at Columbia University. At Columbia University, students invaded the administration building, took 3 administrators hostage for 24 hours. Y'all think you're radical doing a protest with the wall on campus? 1968 was a rupture. Okay? But what did that lead to, Mahmoud? What did that lead to? That led to a fundamental shift in the way the academia is set up in this country and across the globe. We saw the introduction of the first Black Studies program. We saw the ethnic studies programs start evolving. Chicano studies, Native Indian studies, all of a sudden. Now you have academic programs, entire developed programs with faculty, Native faculty, Black faculty, Chicano faculty, Arab faculty, etc., emerging in this period. And that's why a lot of us also benefited from this, because this is the period that affirmative action took place. This is the period that diversity, equity, and inclusion started emerging, okay? And so they're now more concerned with the inclusivity and the diversity of the university. But that was through forced measures that the students took. They forced the hand of the university. They forced the hand of the institution. The protests against the Vietnam War were astoundingly huge. Millions of people across the globe, but especially in the United States. The protests were so huge that they led to the end of the draft. None of us will ever have dealt with the draft. We don't know what it's like. You know, but some of us who came from other countries, maybe like Egypt or other countries where they have to serve in the military, they know maybe what it's like. But in the United States, that was something you do. You get drafted, the government calls upon you, you go fight in another country. And we know the famous opposition and protest by Muhammad Ali when he said, you know, I will not go fight in Vietnam. Nobody over there ever called me a Negro, right? Why would I fight them when you guys here are treating me like trash, right? And so that was a big moment. That was fundamentally shifted the discussion. By 1975, though, the draft had ended in the United States. The Vietnam War came to an end. That's it. People rose up, fought back. They were not willing to engage in it. So when we talk about the importance of student activism, I want us to understand it within the broader context of student activism in the United States. Don't just look at it from the Palestine standpoint. Look at it from a broader standpoint. Because in 1968, that was just a year after the devastating Six-Day War of 1967. That was just a few months after October 1967, when Che Guevara was assassinated. Okay? So you're talking about a moment in history where there was a lot of things taking place. And the three evils of society had become the most apparent. Excessive, what? Materialism. What's the other one? Racism and militarism. Yes, you guys passed the midterm. So we are at a critical juncture right now. Same moment. In 2023, we are seeing the three evils of society pop their ugly head once again. You have the United States of America, the largest purveyor of violence, just coming out of the longest war in its history in Afghanistan, the most devastating war in Iraq, now supporting the apartheid genocidal state of Israel to the tune of $3.8 billion. And not only that, you have a moment where everybody feels, the entire world feels, that the rules-based order that was established after World War II to prevent genocide in the first place, to prevent these conflicts and the Third World War from happening again, has completely eroded, has completely fallen apart. Why? Because the same countries that created the rules-based order are the ones who undermine it. The same countries who made the international law as we know it today, established the Geneva Conventions, the Rome Statute, the Genocide Conventions, the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice, all this stuff. I'll let the lawyer talk about that. All that stuff is meaningless if the United States simply raises its hand in the UN Security Council and says veto. It's meaningless. And so what they've done now at this moment is they've made the entire world see that this system that's been established it's not meant to serve you. It's not meant to serve you Muslims. It's not meant to serve you Palestinians. It's not meant to serve you Africans. It's not meant to serve you Asians or Latin Americans. No, no, no. It's only meant to serve us. When crimes are committed against us, yes. When our buildings are hit, the whole world has to stand united so that we can launch two unjust wars. But when an entire genocide of your people is committed, the whole world must accept that we have to do this because it's our national interest. How absurd is that? And so we are dealing with a moment with excessive materialism, as capitalism constantly does this, every few years you have this explosion because people start recognizing that this global system of capital just makes no sense at all. This drive for profit after profit makes no sense at all. It's destroying the earth. Okay? And now you have militarism, and of course, after the George Floyd moment, the recognition and the acknowledgement that racism remains the main focal point, the main driving force of US domestic and foreign policy. And so we're seeing this taking place all over the world. The protests that you're seeing in London, the Million-Man March, the protests that you're seeing all over Western Europe and Asia and the Middle East and the United States, they're not just protests to end the genocide in Gaza. They're protests of people in frustration with this global order that sucks, that's not designed for us. This global order that allowed colonialism and then led to World War I and II, and then now is supposed to be cleaning the world of injustice, makes no sense because the same actors are the ones who committed all these crimes in the past too. And they continue to commit the crimes today. So now everybody's awake. Now everybody recognizes it. Nobody's drinking the Kool-Aid anymore. And so now students are also organizing on this front. They're organizing in this moment. So now that we set up the context of what we are engaged in today, it's incredible to see how widespread the organizing is taking place. Because to be honest, in our time, the main people organizing on the ground and active and sort of and elevating the discourse on the situation in Palestine were students. And I think students remain the primary instigators in that regard. However, now what we're seeing is something that I didn't expect. Now we're seeing doctors organizing to end the genocide. Now we're seeing labor unions standing up and saying unequivocally, we're done with this. Now we're seeing climate justice folks. Now we're seeing immigrant rights communities. Now we're seeing church organizations. And now, of course, we're seeing a strong and a robust Muslim community addressing this issue. When we got arrested in 2010, some people in our community were like, yo, what are you guys doing, man? You guys are making us look bad. I swear to God. You know some of these OC people. They're happy living in Irvine, California with their $1 million homes. Why are you messing up our vibe, bro? I'm like, Gaza's under attack. And you donate $1 million a year to the university. Can't you speak up and help us? This is not how things are done, brother. Not how things are done. If you give money to the university and you can't exercise your power over the university, then who's the powerful one here, me or you? You're weak, bro. And so that's the sort of the situation that we were dealing with, and now we're seeing something different. And I'll tell you this. Zionists are really going to regret the day that they made Muslims their enemy. Because we didn't choose them. It's not like we went through the Rolodex of colonizers of the world and we're like, British, nah, nah. Germans, nah. French, nah. Oh, Jews, yes, yeah, you guys colonize us. That would be great. No. That was a path that they chose. Because their acceptance into whiteness, into Europe, was conditioned upon the fact that they had to colonize some other people. And they thought that they could pull it off. They thought that after 75 years, they're going to normalize with Saudi Arabia, and Khadim al-Haramain al-Sharifain is going to go on his first trip to Tel Aviv, and they're going to just seal the deal and bury the Palestinian cause for good. That's what they thought. They thought we have Egypt under control, we have Jordan under control, Syria's in shambles, Lebanon will never do anything. Khalas, we got it. But October 7th changed everything. October 7th showed that the most poor, under-resourced, devastated, starving people of the world, Frantz Fanon called them the wretched of the earth, have destroyed the veneer of superiority that the West and the colonizers have fed us for generations. You're telling me the Yemenis, who just 2 years ago, the United Nations said is undergoing the worst humanitarian crisis in history, and the Ghazazwa, who have been under siege for 17 years, are leading a fight against the most powerful superpowers in this world. Allahu Akbar. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that? And here we are, scared to say something at work. Come on, bro. We have people showing us the path, showing us the way. They are ready to throw down everything. Why? Because for them it's the principle that counts. Any material consequences, they're prepared to handle. It's the principle that counts. Didn't we say that we're the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Don't we stand up every day and say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah? Didn't the Prophet tell us, Unsur akhaka zaliman aw mazluma? Then why can't we practice what we preach? And so at this moment, we have Muslim youth around the country, in the hundreds of thousands, who have been taught the Sunnah, and who have been reading Quran their entire lives, and now seeing the moment where the genocide is taking place. 20,000 Muslims and Christians have been killed in Gaza. And they're saying, yo, this is our moment to rise up. And for me, that's a very dangerous thing to the enemy. And that's why the first thing after October 7th that the United States Senate did, they passed a resolution in the Senate condemning student activism. Dang. You know what they say, if you want to know who your real leaders are, look at where your enemies are pointing their arrows. Why would the US Senate be so concerned with what's happening on campuses across the country? Why would they host a congressional hearing with the presidents of UPenn, Harvard, and MIT to question them about why they can't clamp down on student activism? Because they recognize that the floodgates have opened. And they're trying their best to put their fingers in the cracks. They know what's about to happen. They read the polls, I read the polls, they read the polls. They go on TikTok and they see what people are saying. You know, in our time, we were happy when people just said, you know, we sympathize with the Palestinians. No. Now, the polls are saying that the youth from age 18 to 24 in the United States don't just support the Palestinians. They support the resistance. It's a different discussion, generationally speaking. And so, when we talk about student activism, this is the moment. This is the time to agitate, to make Zionists feel very uncomfortable on campus. We're not here for their comfort. We're not here to accommodate anybody. Even the liberals on our campus who might be with us but are not saying anything, forget all that. We know who we are. We're confident about what we want. We know exactly what we want to say. We know exactly what we want to do. And we're going to do it. None of this accommodation stuff. All right? We're clear about our objectives. Free Palestine from the river to the sea. Don't let anybody make you feel uncomfortable about saying that. Because we don't follow their moral authority. When they ruled Palestine, they massacred us in the thousands. They destroyed our homes. They displaced our people. They ruined and destroyed our religious spaces. They dug up our graves. But when we rule Palestine, we go by a different moral code. And so therefore it's incumbent upon us to rule Palestine again. You follow me? That's the kind of confidence that we have to have when we're approaching the work that we do on campus. And there are a lot of people, for many, many years, who sought to secularize this cause. Simply talk about it from a human rights standpoint. Or simply talk about it from a Marxist standpoint, which is more palatable to American leftists, right? Nah. No. October 7th changed all of that. Because you have a population in Gaza who are among the highest proportionally of the Huffaz of Quran in the world. You have a population in Gaza who, when they seek shelter, they go to the masjid. You have a population in Gaza who, when the fathers lose their sons and daughters, they beseech Allah. And so let us not shy away from who we are. We're Muslims. We believe in Allah. We will enforce, we will bring the rules that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us to this earth. Because that's what we were sent for. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا إيش؟ شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. So let's be clear and assertive with that. Going back to the campus. I know it's a difficult time. I know it's a scary time because we've been there, we've seen it. We've been prosecuted, we've been suspended, we've been attacked, etc., etc. And this is not something new. They've been sort of sharpening their tools of repression for many, many years. For many, many years. But despite that, they have been unsuccessful. They have been unsuccessful at destroying the student movement for Palestine in the United States. I mean, for God's sake, one of the biggest literary critics in the world and academics in the United States, or one of the biggest academics in the United States, period, is Edward Said. His Orientalism is still studied, I still study in my graduate seminars today. There's undoubtedly the most profound breakthrough academic work of the 20th century, okay? Today, some of the most elite academics, prominent activists, strongest communities, Palestinian and Muslim communities in the United States. There's just undoubtedly. Everybody knows that. And so despite the fact that they've been trying to repress time and time again, put people down, student movement keeps growing and it becomes more vigorous. And now the student movement includes broader segments. It's not just us. Everybody's involved now. Everybody's throwing down. I don't remember it like this. I don't remember having hundreds and thousands of Jewish students on campus standing up with us. Never. That wasn't on our time. Huh?
There's a reason we were all Muslim.
Yeah, there was a reason we were all Muslims on campus just doing it. Now, everybody's throwing down because everybody recognizes the same problem. Because if they could do this to our children in Gaza, they could do it to the children in Cambodia. They could do it to the children in India. They could do it to the children in Brazil. This could happen anywhere now. They've broken the sense of normalcy and security in the world, right? And Gaza has put that on full display. And so I'm going to pass it to Osama. Let him say a few words before I take it back. Inshallah. And then we can inshallah take some Q&A. Barakallahu fikum. Oh, you need the mic. Sorry.
Assalamu alaikum. So even though I'm on home turf, it's tough to follow up Taha. So I grew up in San Diego. This masjid actually is pretty much where I was raised. I went to Saturday school here way back when. I went to high school here and then finally went to UC Irvine for college. Something Taha had talked about, and I think that has come up a little bit too, is how essentially this moment is almost a revisit for 9/11. I was in the 8th grade when 9/11 happened, so it was very much a formative experience for me. I think, Taha, you probably would echo that. And I think for our entire community. And for us, I think we witnessed a Muslim community that was very much caught off guard. Me and Usama were talking about a forum that we had held in the multipurpose room here that was really honestly about, are we actually American as Muslim youth? And how do we feel about being labeled as American? And it was very much this dichotomy that we lived with of, are we Muslim? Are we American? Am I Egyptian? Am I American? When I'm in Egypt, I'm different than the other Egyptians. When I'm in America, I'm still another. And it was something I think our generation struggled with. And one thing that we realized was the messaging that was coming out at that point in time from our community, not from everyone in the community, but it was an overwhelming message that sometimes you would hear was the Islam is peace message. And it just didn't resonate with us. That wasn't the response that we wanted to have to 9/11. And I think for me, going to a place like UC Irvine, even though the Irvine 11 moment kind of got a lot of the hype and the fame, it didn't happen in a vacuum. I remember before I ever went to UCI, UCI made national headlines for a flag football team that was part of a Muslim football tournament that they called UC Intifada. And that made national headlines. It was on national news. And you have to understand, this is coming out a few years after the second Intifada, where we're getting, and back then it was like Al Jazeera was televising the revolution. And that was how you got your media and your view of what was happening in Palestine. I don't remember all the names, but I remember very vivid images of my parents watching Al Jazeera at home and seeing a young boy hiding behind his father, behind the trash can, and them getting shot and killed by Israeli soldiers. I remember the little boys throwing rocks at tanks and standing up, and all those images that were coming out during that time. And now add on to that the fact that 9/11 had happened, and Muslims were public enemy number one to a level that is, I don't even think is really even till like now at the same level. And so for Muslims to come out and say UC Intifada, that was like, this is a hotbed of terrorism. This is an Al-Qaeda sleeper cell that is taking place here. And that was a bunch of like dudes that were just going to school, students at UC Irvine. And when I got to campus my freshman year, there was an individual by the name of Daniel Pipes. He was just like an Islamophobe to another level. And the MSU, the Muslim Student Union on campus, shut down the event. Move forward even a few more years, actually before Irvine 11, we participated in, were you on camp? So Taha was actually UC Riverside, but he was one of the cool kids, so we let him hang out with us. No, just wait. Did you come to the tuition fee hike protest? Yeah, so at the time, the UC system, I believe, was like $6,000 a year, and it was going up to like $9,000 a year, which is probably pennies compared to what it is now. And so there was massive, massive protests on campus. And actually one of the Irvine 11 guys, he actually did a Facebook post at the time that started the entire protest movement at UCI. Joe is the one that he did a Facebook post, and it got thousands, if not like tens of thousands of students on campus, to the point where students were actually going into lecture halls, disrupting the lecture halls. There was a few physical altercations with professors in these like 300-person lecture halls, and classrooms were shut down completely. People were fighting with the professors over the microphones, telling people class is over, you gotta get out. And this is over tuition fee hike protests. So in comparison, our protest is really tame and honestly kind of lame. But that was the environment that we had seen. And specifically on this issue too, at UC Irvine specifically, it really was the Muslim Student Union that was leading the charge on issues of Palestine. There was no SJP at the time. And it was the Muslim students who were actively engaging on this issue. To give you an idea, we viewed, and in general, when we discussed actions, we often wanted to be goal-oriented. What is our goal? What is our purpose? We viewed our purpose at UCI as one of which we are pushing the envelope. By that I mean we at one point purchased a like 10 by 15 Israeli flag. We spray painted it with red dots to mimic blood. and we flew it on our flagpole area. Underneath it, we put about like 1,000 white flags, and essentially just big signage that Israel is a genocidal state. This did not go over well with administration, and we were often called into administration to discuss this stuff. Now, a lot of people viewed our actions as it didn't fall in line with what they wanted, but for us, we wanted to push the envelope. To give you an idea, this is a time and place where saying the word apartheid was essentially unheard of. I remember watching a CBS News article in like 2006, or maybe 2008, where they uttered the word apartheid in reference to Israel, and it was like, oh my God, we're finally being recognized. Like this is actually being said. I don't even recall anyone else saying genocide or ethnic cleansing. To give you an idea, I don't know if you remember Professor O'Connell at UC Irvine. He was known as like the left-wing professor on campus. We had, at one point for one of our anti-Zionism weeks, we had called it, I forgot exactly what we called it, but we said the next Shoah, which is, I guess, the Hebrew word for Holocaust. The left-wing professor told us, maybe you shouldn't use that terminology. That was kind of the era that we were living in. And so using words like genocide, ethnic cleansing, apartheid was enough to get us called into the chancellor's office, who, our chancellor at the time was Michael Drake, who's the chancellor for all the UC students of the entire UC system now, or president of the UC system. We had, what was his, Mark Udoff. No, he was phenomenal. I mean, this got to the point where I remember we actually also had a Department of Education investigation into anti-Semitism on campus. If you're from Orange County, or if you know the history of Orange County, it's gotten a little bit more purple over the last few years, but it's considered red county. It is the most Republican conservative county of California, and very much so, UC Irvine is in a extreme seat of just wealthy Zionists. So many of the donors to UC Irvine are amongst some of the richest Zionists in the world. Donald Bren, the Bren Event Center on campus, the Samueli family for the School of Engineering, along with other families. So with all of that being said, in 2008, 2009, Israel launched Operation Cast Lead on the Gaza Strip. This is a few years after Israel had militarily left the Gaza Strip and began the blockade on Gaza. And at that time, I think up until probably this most recent attack, that would be considered the worst attack on Gaza by Israel. If I'm not mistaken, was that the introduction of white phosphorus too? Yeah, so the white phosphorus that's probably being rained down on Gaza, but also I see a lot of pictures of it coming down on like South Lebanon right now. This was the introduction of white phosphorus by Israel in their operations and in their genocide. So me and Taha had actually, and a bunch of other students actually had the opportunity to go to Gaza in 2009, you're right, summer 29, 2009. And we had the opportunity, we were granted 24 hours to go into Gaza. It was on a humanitarian aid convoy. Us and a lot of other actually UCI students and other UC students had this opportunity. Taha is actually, his family is from Gaza, along with some other folks. And we got 24 hours to see Gaza in essentially the immediate aftermath of Operation Cast Lead. Definitely a very formative experience for a lot of us. It was hard to come back from that. And then in January 2010 to find out that the Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren, would be coming to our campus. And not only coming to our campus, but the university was essentially rolling out the red carpet for him. They were pulling out all the bells and whistles in a way that they don't do with other speakers. The chancellor was coming, the head of the social sciences department was gonna be the MC of the event. And we quickly found out that this wasn't really an event. It was broadcast to the university, but this was more so an event to rally the troops in Orange County. At this time, and around that time actually, the New York Times I think even published an article about how Israel was beginning to essentially engage in a PR rebranding. Operation Cast Lead was maybe the first time where Israel kind of started taking some L's on the international scene with how it looked. in regards to its actions and in regards to the genocide that it was committing. And so they had to go through a rebranding effort, and Michael Oren was leading this charge. And he was going to a few universities and a few speaking engagements, and one of them happened to be UC Irvine. To give you an idea of how this played out too, and the role that UCI played, Jimmy Carter, when he wrote his book, Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid, chose 3 universities to speak at across the entire country. This is the former president of the United States. One of them was UC Irvine. UC Irvine was seen as the hotbed of this contentious issue. And so Michael Oren came. We had multiple students and also Tahir and some of the UCR guys who had family members killed during Operation Cast Lead. So this was also a personal issue for a lot of people. And to see Michael Oren come and have the red carpet rolled out for him was unacceptable to us. So in that light, it was important for us to determine and decide what type of action are we going to take. Protests can take many shapes, they can take many forms. In the past, there had been protests when the Danish cartoons were being published and there was an attempt to show them on campus, and the Muslim Student Union essentially shut down the entire street and had a huge prayer on the street. Again, that was also a very much a big moment in kind of like the trajectory of UC Irvine's activism. You can pass out flyers at a protest. You can take direct action, and we decided for this protest, the only thing that made sense was we have the highest ranking Israeli official in the United States on our campus. Anything we do tonight will send a message to Tel Aviv. And we want Tel Aviv to know that UCI is not going to be a place of, it's not going to be a friendly spot for you. And so with that, we had actually seen a previous protest. And actually internally, we call this a Chicago-style protest. The University of Chicago had done a similar protest a few months back where they essentially, I think it was Ehud Olmert that they shut down. And so we decided that we were going to do our best to shut the event down as much as we could. And there was 10 of us that had said, if it comes down to it, we'll get arrested. And so as Michael Oren started his speech, and for anyone, who doesn't know who Michael Oren is, not only is he the Israeli ambassador to the United States at that time, but he was also the military spokesperson during Operation Cast Lead. And he also served as a paratrooper in the invasion of Lebanon in the 80s. So this was a dude with a resume of genocide. So as he started his speech, each one of us got up individually at different times and interrupted his speech. We had pre-prepared statements. And this is why I say our protest was really pretty lame. And really tame. I mean, we had index cards that said what we were supposed to say on it. And the whole point was we wanted to come off as not looking too emotional, not looking too irrational. We wanted people to stick to the script. We felt, we're still abiding by some kind of moral code that we don't want to make sure people just kind of go off script and it just turns into a brawl in the event room. It was about 700 people in the room. And we knew that engaging with the audience, even to entertain a question and answer was just not the route we wanted to go. This was not an audience that we cared to entertain. This was not an audience that we cared to engage with on an academic level or to ask questions that somehow would expose Michael Oren. You have a propagandist on stage. And so we did our best to shut the event down. And towards the end of the event, after each one of us got up, every few minutes one of us would get up and give our statement, and we would walk out, at which point we would be arrested and would sent to a back room where we were kept in handcuffs for a few hours. And then towards the end of the event, the 10th person got up, and all the students that came in support also got up with him, and they were chanting, and one of those students got arrested, and he became the 11th. And from there came the name Irvine 11. Now, one of the things that we dealt with and that I think is also important to highlight and link with this idea of anti-Semitism is also Islamophobia. We dealt with some extreme forms of Islamophobia at that point in time, just really ridiculous stuff. And I think what you're seeing today is the Zionist community essentially banking in and cashing in on the checks that they've been writing for the last 20 years on Islamophobia. CARE did a great report maybe almost 7-8 years ago on the Islamophobia industry and the role of essentially Zionists in that industry. And now I think they're really cashing in on that investment that they made to conflate the two and to really push this narrative that anyone who speaks up against Israel is anti-Semitic by conflating it also with the fact that people are just already predisposed against us because of their inherent Islamophobia. And that was used against us for this prosecution too. When we got arrested, it actually took some time for us to be charged. So you get arrested by officers, and then you're later charged by the district attorney's office. And the district attorney's office actually took a full 364 days to file charges against us. That's because they had 365 days to file misdemeanor charges against us. So for 364 days, they tried to file felony charges against us. Essentially, something related to some type of terrorism charge. They put together a grand jury. They subpoenaed a grand jury, which is essentially something that only happens in the most extreme cases. The district attorney's office was a very Republican district attorney's office. The spokesperson for the DA's office was actually someone who was married to the head of the Republican Party in Orange County. And a lot of this came to light. To give you an idea, she came out and said, she likened us to the KKK interrupting Martin Luther King Jr., which is real ironic for us. Ultimately, we were charged with 2 misdemeanors, and we were actually prosecuted by the head of the homicide unit. To give you an idea, the head of the homicide unit probably hasn't touched a misdemeanor in like 20 years. But they essentially threw all their resources at us, and internally, this case was called the UCI Muslim case. Just very blatant and direct about it. And
The only way we knew was because they leaked it.
yes, they leaked it. Also, the DA's office got like 3 of their lead investigators. Essentially, the judge kicked 3 of their investigators off the case for violating a bunch of rules. And even then, actually, I remember the trial actually was postponed to coincide with the 10th anniversary of 9/11. And they purposely did that in order to just kind of stir up the emotions. Again, if you're not old enough to remember, the 10th anniversary of 9/11 was a big deal. My name's Usama. That came up in jury selection often. And so a lot of this like Islamophobia was used against us. Ultimately, we were charged with these 2 misdemeanors. We were prosecuted, and we were convicted. I think we both, and all of us kind of wear it as badges of honor at this point. It's also pretty lame what we were convicted of. We conspiracy to disturb a public meeting and disturbance of a public meeting. Not the coolest thing in the world, but hey, it stuck. With that being said, I echo a lot of what Taha has said, especially in terms of the role of students in this movement. For us, we viewed ourselves as folks who had been in a long line of student activism. We were raised essentially by some of our predecessors at UC Irvine across Southern California. Many of the leaders within our community, and also to shout out Sheikh Taha, and what Taha spoke about when it came to within our own community, we were not beloved. Sheikh Taha was actually the first Imam, and the first like Irvine 11 rallying event happened here at icsd, thanks to Sheikh Taha. There was a lot of folks that did not like what we were doing within the Muslim community. It was actually a lot of non-Muslims that were supporting us, who understood the history of American protest and the American protest movement and the student protest movement that came to our defense and supported us. But a lot of Muslims hit us with, Musa was sent to Fir'aun and was told to speak nicely. And we said, yeah, but you know what happened to Fir'aun after that. And we just didn't view that as our role. We thought we spoke nicely anyways. And I remember even some on the East Coast, there was some like virtual town halls who we got kind of ran through the dirt about how this is not how Muslims should act. And we felt this is exactly how Muslims should act, and that this was our role. We are students at a university, and this is what you do at a university. And that someone like Michael Oren or any Israeli official or anyone who supports the state of Israel should not be allowed to propagate murder and to go out and say this stuff without feeling some type of backlash. And so for us, it was not only following in that line, but also an attempt to pass the torch down to future generations. And I think Tahir is probably far more equipped to speak on that, and essentially the legacy that came out of not just the Irvine 11, but really the Irvine 11 is just one part of a big wheel of student activism that was going on all over campus. Irvine 11 just kind of had all the ingredients with Islamophobia, Orange County, UC Irvine, that kind of got it that name. But really going forward, the power that students have. And I think Tahir's example of the arrows and where the arrows are aimed at is to be honest, now that we are, I mean, Tahir's still a student, I guess, but I'm not a student anymore. But really, when we kind of look to who's leading the charge, it's always the students. And that is the role that students play within the community, is the ability to really dictate for the rest of the community how we should go about to fight back, and to do so in such an unapologetic manner. And I think that's something that for all of us older folks, when we see what you guys are doing, it definitely, it gets us excited, it gets us motivated, it kind of gets that fire burning again. And so we love to see you guys doing it, and keep up the good work. And I'll let Tahir, I'll kick it back to you.
Any closing remarks, like 2 minutes? Should you want to just go straight to Q&A?
I guess we'll just do a quick close. I'll just keep the mic here. I just want to say that there, and I want to go back to what I said in the beginning, that your campus work and your organizing on campus, consider that your training for what's going to happen after you're done with school. Because it's not like the Prophet ﷺ, after he opened Mecca, khalas, the mission was done. You know what I mean? It's not like after the Prophet ﷺ died, the Sahaba's mission was done. It's not like after the Umar bin Khattab walked into Ilya and took the keys that the mission was done. No, they kept going. You know, there was no like, oh, this is our phase and we're done now and that's it. No. And so I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, that this is the campus is the training ground for what's to come. And the most successful people in our community now were the most active on campus. Because they engaged with the community. They learned about the difficulties of organizing, in relationship building, in mitigating and dealing with challenges. All that stuff comes with you being engaged and involved on campus. If you're not, then you're not going to be equipped to handle what's to come next. And what makes you think that one day while you're sitting working in your tech job, all of a sudden you're going to just wake up and just be like, you know what, I need to be involved more in Palestine stuff. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? Like you already have to be in the vibe, in the environment, in order for you to be able to contribute most effectively. And we're not just looking for people to just jump into the work. We're looking for people who have sharpened their tools over the years, who can come and contribute their best to this work for Palestine in America. And right now, alhamdulillah, we're seeing it. I mean, I had attorneys reaching out to me saying, hey, I'm down to do pro bono work, free. Just tell me what you want me to do. And now we have a national network of like 1,000 attorneys who are working on cases across the country. Okay, people are ready. Why? Because those people are already involved on campus. We have a higher ed group chat where like all these professors are on this group chat talking about the most effective ways to deal with the challenges that they're dealing with of anti-Semitism and stuff on campus. We have the Muslim community leadership. A lot of the YM, the MSA kids that I knew back in the day, now they're all involved. Now they're all leading the efforts. Now they're leading the national organizations and they're doing the work. So, but that's because they were involved. If they had just come into the work now, it's going to take them a lot to catch up, right? And so that's just something very important to think about. And are there opportunities to work off campus? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, me and Feroz were talking about this earlier. You know, let the campus community nexus be an integral part of your organizing. Like, let's not silo ourselves into campus only when we're working as student organizers. Let's make sure that we're reaching into the community. One of the things that I think made the MSU at UC Irvine so successful is that their relationship with, for example, ICOI, the masjid, was very strong. And the masjid was always part and integral to the organizing and the student work. And so they would meet for their halaqas there. They had connections with the other masajid in Orange County. And so MSU UCI was of and by the community. And so it wasn't like something abstract or an aberration, or people don't know what's happening on campus. Oh, there's just, there's just these wild kids over there. No, it was like, these are our sons and daughters who are engaged in this work, and we have to protect them and defend them. And so I think that's very important. Number two is, alhamdulillah, I mean, one of the things we said on the webinar that we did together just a couple months ago, everybody that was arrested and that was charged and convicted, we ended up being all right. We're okay. Alhamdulillah, I never had to ask anybody to help me pay rent, But even if we did go into a situation where we lost our livelihoods, where we spent time in prison, where we had difficulty meeting the basic demands of life, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be engaged in this work. Because that's not why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us on this earth. We make calculated decisions, we prepare strategically, but we also have to have the courage to take action, even if it means that there's a cost to us. And that's something that, this moment necessitates. This moment, as we are witnessing a genocide firsthand, this moment necessitates courage, despite the consequences. And so I just want to, end with that, inshallah, and then we could open it up to Q&A. Jazakumullah khair.
Okay, inshallah, we'll be doing our last two rak'ats and then shaf' and witr, inshallah.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير وآتينا موسى الكتاب وجعلناه هدى لبني إسرائيل ألا تتخذوا من دوني وكيلا ذرية من حملنا مع نوح إنه كان عبدا شكورا وقضينا إلى بني إسرائيل بني إسرائيل في الكتاب لتفسدن في الأرض مرتين ولتعلن علوا كبيرا فإذا جاء وعد أولاهما بعثنا عليكم عبادا لنا أولي بأس شديد فجاسوا خلال الديار وكان وعدا مفعولا ثم رددنا لكم الكرة عليهم وأمددناكم بأموال وبنين وجعلناكم أكثر نفيرا إن أحسنتم أحسنتم لأنفسكم وإن أسأتم فلها فإذا جاء وعد الآخرة ليسوءوا وجوهكم وليدخلوا المسجد كما دخلوه أول مرة وليتبروا ما علوا تتبيرا عسى ربكم أن يرحمكم وإن عدتم عدنا وجعلنا جهنم للكافرين حصيرا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كبيرا وأن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة أعتدنا لهم عذابا أليما ويدعو الإنسان بالشر دعاءه بالخير وكان الإنسان عجولا وجعلنا الليل والنهار آيتين فمحونا آية الليل وجعلنا آية النهار مبصرة لتبتغوا فضلا من ربكم ولتعلموا عدد السنين والحساب وكل شيء فصلناه تفصيلا وكل إنسان ألزمناه طائره في عنقه ونخرج له يوم القيامة كتابا يلقاه منشورا اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا من اهتدى فإنما يهتدي لنفسه ومن ضل فإنما يضل عليها ولا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى وما كنا معذبين حتى نبعث رسولا وإذا أردنا أن نهلك قرية أمرنا متر فيها ففسقوا فيها فحق عليها القول فدمرناها تدميرا وكم أهلكنا من القرون من بعد نوح وكفى بربك بذنوب عباده خبيرا بصيرا الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
We'll pray Salat al-Witr inshallah. And we'll make dua al-Qunut after the rising from the ruku'. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفؤا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. اللهم يا رحمن يا رحيم أنزل رحماتك على إخواننا في غزة وفلسطين. اللهم أنزل عليهم من رحماتك يا رب العالمين. اللهم ارحمهم برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء. اللهم ارحمهم برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء. اللهم كن معهم ولا تكن عليهم. اللهم كن معهم ولا تكن عليهم وأمددهم بمدد من عندك يا رب العالمين. اللهم أمددهم بمدد من عندك يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجبر كسرهم وارحم مصابهم. اللهم ارفع محنتهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم فرج محنتهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصرهم على من عاداك وعاداهم. اللهم انصرهم على من عاداك وعاداهم. اللهم أيدهم بنصرك المؤزر يا رب العالمين. اللهم عليك بالظالمين في كل مكان. اللهم عليك بالصهاينة الغاصبين وبأذنابهم في كل مكان يا رب العالمين. اللهم عليك بالخونة في كل مكان يا رب العالمين. اللهم ارحم إخواننا في غزة وفلسطين وفرج كربتهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم ارحم شهداءهم. اللهم ارحم شهداءهم واشف مرضاهم وجرحاهم. اللهم اشف مرضاهم وجرحاهم. اللهم لقد تخلى عنهم كل الناس فلا تتخلى عنهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم لا تتخلى عنهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم تقبل دعاءنا لإخواننا يا رب العالمين. اللهم تقبل دعاءنا لإخواننا يا رب العالمين. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث. يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث. يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بك. وصل اللهم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. At the end of this program, I wanted just to say Jazakumullahu khair, especially our speakers, Brother Tahir, Usama, and Dr. Subuh. Jazakumullahu khair for everything and for everyone to attend. And I was supposed to say something or to remind myself and everyone at the beginning, to make our niyyah, our intention, behind this salat, behind this gathering, just, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our brothers and sisters in Gaza. And, earlier today, a group of young brothers, they asked the question, are we allowed to have like a salat for Gaza, qiyam for Gaza? And I'm like, of course, yes. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever there was something going on, he always, rushed to pray and to make dua. He rushed to pray and to make dua. And in the Sunnah, it's very well grounded that, whenever there is something going, any type of difficulty or hardship, to turn to Allah Azza wa Jal and use our good deeds as wasila, as one of the means, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring an ease and comfort. And there is this hadith, it's a long hadith in Bab al-Ikhlas, in the chapter of sincerity, in the books of hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ, when he talked about the three people who were traveling, and then they went into a cave to have some rest. And then a huge rock blocked the exit. And they were asking, how can we get out? We might die here. Because they tried to push that rock, they could not. And then they said to each other, okay, now each one of us should remember anything that you did in your life, a righteous action that you did only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any one of us, every one of us. Then they started, each one of them started mentioning something that happened to him, that a righteous action that he did, and it was only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And after mentioning the story, the experience, each one of them said, Ya Allah, if you know that I did this for your sake, Ya Allah, bring an ease to our situation. And every time one of them mentioned the story, that rock moved a little bit. But it was not enough for them to exit. After the second one, the rock moved a little bit. Again, it was not enough for them to exit. And after the third one mentioned his story, and he made the dua, the rock moved all the way and they could go out. What does this mean? It means that, you know, in times of difficulty, like the difficulty that's going on now in Gaza and Palestine, it's our duty to rush to as-salah and the dua and do anything good. I mean, like fasting a day or giving a sadaqah or doing anything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the intention of having that righteous deed goes to ease the situation for our brothers in Gaza and Palestine. This is very grounded in the Sunnah. So we have to, I mean, if we don't know things, we need to ask. Okay, instead of just, you know, just judging and saying that, oh, is this Sunnah? Is this something? Okay, if you don't know, just ask, but don't judge. This is very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. If you don't know, just go ask somebody who is more knowledgeable than you, and they will explain to you, inshallah. So, again, جزاكم الله خير, بارك الله فيكم, حفظكم الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And if we can have some volunteers to clean up the multi-purpose room, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum.
Also, sorry, one last announcement. Tomorrow, the 23rd at 2 p.m., the San Diego for Palestine Coalition will be having a protest at Balboa Park, 6th and Laurel, so make sure you come out and support. Jazakallah khair and assalamu alaikum.
I need some bread. Well, I always think about it, but I feel lazy to go.
Let me know. Wallah, I'll stop by. On my way home. Wallah, you're right by the 805. Wallah, anytime. Shoot me a text message. Sorry. Next time, text me.